Welcome to this week's edition of the Collective. I'm so excited I can barely say it. Welcome to this week's edition of the Collective. My name is Michelle Turner, and about 2 years ago, the guest that's scheduled for today came on to talk about her life and her relationship with her dad. And it was called Beanie Bud's Debut. And it was very expressive, had a lot of rave reviews. So fast forward, pandemic, and these past couple of months, she's thought about a few things, made some changes, and now we have another production. This one's called Boss Moves. And we welcome KERRY-ANN Fenton this time to the collective. Thanks so much, KERRY-ANN, for being here today. How
Thank
are
you for
you?
having me. I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. A little rushed, but I'll find myself in a minute.
Uh,
But I'm thankful that you're here. So before we get into Beanie Bud and Boss Moves, you have a shirt on that represents a very big change in your life.
Yes, I do. And the shirt came today. How timely.
Wow.
Yes, I opened my front door this morning. I was on my way out to my trainer. And when I opened the door, there was a box and it said Emory University on there. And I was like, ah!
Now,
And so,
why are we so happy that we're going to be at Emory University?
so this past March, as during Lent, um, God moved in a way that I have never seen God move. Like I was boo-hooing, crying. My boys asking, like, what's wrong with you? Crying and texting and like, somebody please, like, pray for me. I don't know what's going on. And the outcome of that is I will be attending Emory University. I have been accepted to their Master of Divinity program. And when I went to the website, so it doesn't even stop there. So I was my pastor in Jamaica. We were texting at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was saying to him like, I just have this immense feeling that I need to be doing more in ministry. I said, I don't want to preach. I don't want to be a pastor. That is not what I think. But I do these plays. God, like maybe a few nights earlier, I got another script, Boss Move script, and I knocked that out in like 2 hours. And so,
Wow.
yes, I woke up, and when I was finished, I clocked the time, and it was 3:33. And
Wow.
the number 3 is very significant in my life. And when I finished, and I had to put it on the bottom of the script because I said, oh my gosh, no one is ever going to believe me. And so in texting with my pastor, I said, well, I bought a house in Atlanta. I said, I really don't know why, like what drove the decision for Atlanta. I said, but from a family perspective, it works. And I said, help me to like, okay. So he said, I suggest you go to seminary. And he says, you don't have to go to seminary to be a pastor. He says, your ministry with your play, it's a gospel play, and I'm starting a podcast. And he said, in your ministry, at least having the word will allow you to better derive what your future is and how your ministry grows. And so I said, okay. I said, well, tell me where in Atlanta I could go to seminary. So he throws out 2 schools. And before even looking at it, I go, yep, Candler it is. Had no clue Emory was Candler. None of that. I just said, yep, that's the one. And so later that morning at a more reasonable hour, I go on the website. And on the website, it has a dual degree program for divinity in law. Now, as a child, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And when I was going for undergrad, my bachelor's degree, my dad said, Kerry, don't do pre-law. That's such a waste of a degree. He says, do business and then go on to law school, and then you'll know how to run your own law firm. So I said, okay, Dad, that's good. I like that idea. So I did business as my undergrad. And when I graduated Binghamton University, I had Nicholas in tow. I graduated with my firstborn. And my first offer coming out of college was for Ernst & Young, earning $50,000 a year back in 1999. So,
Yeah.
law school, 50 grand, a
I mean, you
baby.
can't knock your choice, so to speak.
So I said I would go back, but just not yet.
Mm.
So I didn't go to law school. And then a few years later, when I decided to do my master's, um, I got into a program at Fairfield University that did not call for a standardized test. So usually when you go for your master's, you have to take the GMAT, the LSAT, and so forth. So I was like, again, this is the choice. I was like, do I go take a standardized test, the LSAT, to go to law school? Or do
Right.
I just accept my entry into Fairfield University with no test? And so Kerry took the route that Kerry wanted to take. And I went to Fairfield University and I
And
did
by
my
then
master's.
you were a real working mom too.
Exactly. I was a working mom. I had a great career. I had, and my role at that point, I was actually still in more technology field. So I did a master's in technology. It wasn't until after grad school that I started to get more into strategy and mergers and acquisitions and things of the, and, dealing with the government and contracts. And so my professional career has crossed legal territory, and I've always had a lawyer on the team to handle those types of things. But still, from a business standpoint and being the person responsible for the deal, I still had to determine, what's the advantage or disadvantage, and what are some of the legal parameters that need to govern the contract. So I've still very much been around law.
Right.
So, but I, I'm professional now. Like, I'm not going back to school. I have a master's, I have an undergrad, and then I'm not going to divinity school. So, needless to say, I go on the website and I look up I look up theology. I didn't really look up any degree. I just looked it up. And popped up was a dual degree program. So they had two. They had Master of Theology
Mhm.
Studies, which was a 4-year program, and Master of Divinity, which was a 5-year program. And it was a dual degree program with the law school. So Kerry said, well, 4 years or 5 years? I was like, I'm going to do the 4-year program. And the way it works is you apply to both schools separately. So because this just really happened in March, I applied to the divinity school. And well, I applied, I set up my account to take you through the whole process of applying. And I
Yeah.
selected the Master of Theological Studies for the 4-year. Emory calls me up, the School of Candler, and says, they don't think the theology program, the 4-year program, is for me. They think the Master of Divinity program is for me. And I'm just like, really? So I said to them, I said, but 4 years versus 5 years. I said, apart from the year, it's more money. They said, Kerry, the Master of Divinity program has more scholarship funds available. So I was like, you're basically telling me to apply to the Master Divinity program. And so I did, and I got a 3-year scholarship.
Wonderful.
3-year, 50% scholarship to start. I've already begun, I've signed up for my LSAT preparation class. And so I'll do that. And the LSAT is scheduled for August 14th. And so my goal is to study for the LSAT over the summer, have that completed before school actually starts for my divinity program, which will start in August. But at least I'll have the LSAT out of the way, and then I'll apply to the law school. And then everything will come together, and I will be a student, full-time student for 5 years, doing my 3rd and 4th graduate degree in Master of Divinity and my Juris Doctorate.
So it seemed like it moved very quick.
Yes.
It seemed like moved very fast. Were you prepared for that mentally?
God, listen, when God tells you to do something, you don't worry about if you're prepared or not.
That's true.
Just follow.
That's true.
And that is exactly what I did. And so in March, when it all came up and I, started the application process, they have a rolling schedule. And so I felt that I would get it in by the end. And when they called me, they said, well, the rolling schedule is if you get each month they do admissions. And so if you get your application in by this date, you'll know by this date. And so I looked at the requirements. There was an essay, there was a bio essay, and then there was a piece where you had to read an article and write an essay. And I was like, I said, there's no like experience waiver.
For the writing? Can I get a waiver for this?
And Michelle, I said, I write plays. I said, can I give you my scripts?
And they're like, no.
No. And so it was that I had to get my resume together. So I had to update my resume. And I think that was, and then my letters of recommendation, I had to get one from a pastor, and then 2 for work experience. And so I have a pastor in Jamaica who serves as my mentor in this process. And so I actually use my Jamaican pastor as my pastoral reference. And then my Christian Tabernacle Baptist Church pastor, Pastor Keith Allen King, he also wrote my letter of recommendation from a work experience standpoint, because I have been a church trustee. I've been the church treasurer. I have done church anniversaries. I have done the youth program. I was at one point the youth advisor. And I was also part of the Ministry of Excellence. So for as the pastor, to write my work experience recommendation, that was awesome. So I had 2 pastoral recommendations. And then my third work experience came from my mentor at Sikorsky Aircraft, Woody Woodyard. And he wrote me a recommendation that I've printed. And I've said that on my dark days, because I didn't see my recommendations from my pastors, but for Woody, he sent it to me. And I said, on my dark days, this is what I have to look at, because he wrote a raving recommendation. And I just...
Backtrack just a teeny bit. Tell us how long you were corporate and where you worked and what your job was. Because I think it's interesting, KERRY-ANN, that you've done sort of a full 360. But I know, as you said, when God calls you to do something, you don't question, you do.
Don't question, you do.
But you've taken a really different journey than most.
Absolutely. And I think, I've always, even though I've been a professional and in the corporate world, and so I started my career out in audit. I was an information systems auditor, and I went from audit to process improvement. And then from process improvement, I went into strategy, into mergers and acquisitions, basically reporting to presidents and senior vice presidents of Pratt and Whitney and Sikorsky Aircraft in terms of what partnerships they can get into that's going to better further the mission and vision of the company. I went from that arena to program management, where my last role was as the foreign military sales program manager for a 60 Black Hawk helicopter aircraft program.
Thank you. That's the part I wanted you to get out. I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to say it.
Yes, Black Hawk. And, Sikorsky and the mission that makes what I did at Sikorsky so significant to me is that it's saving lives every day. And with the Black Hawk helicopter, they weren't they weren't gun-equipped helicopters. These were helicopters that this Asian country would use for life-saving missions. So the terrain was very rough. They have they have hills, they have a lot of ocean. Typhoons will come through, also fires. So how do you fight fires in rural, areas where you don't have roads for fire trucks to go through? So, so part of their fleet of aircraft included, simple missions, everyday missions where you just lower a hoist and say, take someone off of a burning building or take someone out of the water. But they also wanted 6 aircraft that could do all missions. And that was one that was never done. We'd never have had a Black Hawk helicopter that could do all those missions in one. And I was the program manager overseeing that effort. And it was a development effort. And so I had an awesome career.
How long did you do that?
I was in that role for about 2.5 years. When family duty called. I left that role. My oldest went off to college that summer. And I had a travel schedule before me. I was going to be in Taiwan for like 3 weeks, San Francisco, Seattle. The aircraft were being built out of Florida, and so and my ex-husband, he had a very demanding career as well. So when I thought about Nicholas going off to college, and the boys at that age were like 6 and 8, and I was like, I don't think I could handle a stranger coming into my house and taking over my kids. And so family called, and I said, you know what? I'm going to step away from the career and be a mom, because I enjoy being a mom. Throughout all my career, I still coached my boys basketball, soccer, baseball. I ran the town the Greater Hamden Baseball Association for a few years. Don't ask me how. I fly to Germany, I come back, and I leave the airport and go.
And you got a schedule, right? And you got a baseball schedule to deal with.
Exactly. And so I remember I had to be in San Francisco for a big brouhaha meeting with the government and the Asian country. And I was coaching baseball that season. And so I had my parents, Nicholas coached that game for me. And I had my parents texting me like pitch by pitch, like what's happening? And I'm sitting in the meeting and I'm like typing and texting back like, can you please tell me how they're doing? And so, it wasn't very far off for me to go from corporate to family and just being with the boys. And then this isn't very far off either, because during the time that I was working, I was also serving as a church treasurer. I was also serving as a trustee. I was also the ministry of excellence, so I just was able to balance it all. And then I was also active in Delta. At one point, I was the first vice president of the New Haven alumni chapter and brought back Delta Academy, Delta Gems. And so, and oversaw programs. And then I was also the treasurer. So I don't know how I do it all, but I enjoy it all. And so this new path, I feel there have been times in my life where God has called me into ministry, and I've gotten around it by becoming a trustee and becoming the treasurer, because those were comfortable roles. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like he removed all distractions, and I think he put his foot down and said, no, you are going to seminary. I am not giving you options anymore. And I'm just going to be obedient and say, yes, Lord. I'm going to seminary.
But it's a good option.
It is.
It's a good option.
It is. And someone asked, what am I going to do?
That was my next question. So have you decided, or are you, again, just going to let God lead you?
So that's the thing. Our decisions, we think are our decisions, but they're not our decisions, right? No. And so I really do hope that God does not intend for me to pastor a church. However, if he tells me that I have to pastor church, I will be ready to pastor church. What I want to do with this dual degree, I have been embroiled in a very difficult divorce for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And even though we are divorced, and we're divorced as of January of 2020, we still are engaged in legal battles, legal warfare.
And how hard was that? Divorce is already hard, but it's harder during a pandemic.
Harder during a pandemic, harder during being in another country, because I was in Jamaica for a year. And when I came back from Jamaica, my ex-husband started a new case. So I'm still in a legal battle. And in December, I fired my lawyer. I said, I'm not paying one more dime in legal fees. I'm not. I said, it's ridiculous. And so with this dual degree, so I've been representing myself, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job. And so law, I'm playing lawyer right now, but eventually I will have my law degree. And I hope to go into parental custodial rights, family law, and women's rights. I want to fight for those parents who I've learned so much, because at the time that the divorce started, I had left my career. I wasn't working. And so I was the parent who had no income. And so when you talk about, and I say it in those terms because I don't want it to appear as though it's only women that find themselves in that situation, because you can also have men who stay home and make that decision to be the ones that stay home. But do you know that because I had no work experience, I couldn't buy a house without having
But
6
you had
months.
work experience. What do you mean?
Well, when I say, okay, so because I wasn't employed,
At
I
that
couldn't
time.
get a mortgage. You cannot get a mortgage until you have 6 months, until you've been working for 6 months. So fortunately for me, I had a career and I have experience. But think about those stay-at-home parents who
Right.
dedicate their life to the household, who then get divorced. How do they start their life? Not every company is going to give you credit for what it takes to manage a household. And so now they're divorced and they have to find a house. They can't buy one, so now they have to find a job that pays enough for them to. It is not right. There's so many things
It
broken
sounds
in the
like there's
system.
a lot of catch-22 involved.
Absolutely. And so having gone through it myself, I think I have that unique experience of being not only someone that will represent others, but also someone that walked in those shoes. And I hope to do it with a divine perspective, coming from, biblical and trying to remove some of the tension and some of the anger that comes in scenarios like that and come to it with a holistic perspective of what's truly best for all parties involved.
Well, it sounds like you know what you want to do. Doesn't sound like there's a question there.
Well, the question is, I thought I knew what I wanted to do before March, and it did not include divinity and law. So,
Well, it did include moving to Atlanta.
well, that happened in February. So I was going back to
And
Jamaica.
what moved you? I mean, you said in the beginning you weren't sure where that came from, but what really moved you? What made you say, I think I just need to move? Of course, most of the time in a divorce, people have that inkling, right?
Mhm.
But they don't follow through on
Yeah, but my inkling was the right inkling was to go to Jamaica, and I went to Jamaica. But what happened with the pandemic is I'm now in Jamaica with 2 of my 3 children. And I have Nicholas here who's in his senior year of college and he needs to finish. And I need no distractions. So I don't need to be worried about COVID and whether he gets
it.
sick or
Right.
not. I don't need him worrying about COVID and whether we get sick or not. And Jamaica, at the time that the pandemic hit last March, Jamaica closed their airports from March until June. So there was no, exactly. So there was
Wow.
no coming or going. So COVID so when they opened the airports, I brought the boys up so that they could see their dad. And in August, when we were due to go back, about July, August, Nicholas, all of a sudden, when he had housing on campus, they kicked him off campus because they said that he's a senior and he can commute. So then he didn't have housing, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So I got to figure out
Wow.
Nicholas now. And then just the predictability, you just couldn't plan with COVID. And so I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I would rather be where all 3 of my children are. So in the event that COVID also now goes backwards and things are doing better now, but in the event that we get another stay-at-home order or another no travel order, that I would be in a position to be close to all my children.
And
And
have
so,
everyone under one roof.
well, no.
Less
So then
worry.
Nicholas appealed the decision, and he got rooming on campus. And for him with engineering, so he did his mechanical engineering with a minor in math. And part of that, I mean, it's a hard degree for number one. So to be distracted with your 2 younger brothers who
Right.
don't leave you alone. And then also he had a lot of group work, and he had a senior design project that included 2 other group members. And so he really needed to be on campus where he could collaborate with his group and also to finish off strong. And he did. And I think for him, having us close by made a difference. The year before when we were in Jamaica, I mean, he's the whole family has gone through a lot. I mean, because he was also part of the whole divorce, and he's the older one, the oldest of
Yeah.
the 3, so he
So
can
he
understand what's happening.
understands what's going on.
Yes, so I think he internalized a lot, and he was angry and so forth. And so I think this year I've just seen such a difference in him, and he's just more at peace. And so Jamaica, unfortunately, is not doing well with COVID. They're on third
Wave.
their third wave. And
Wow.
so I'm not ready to so in looking at where we were going to reside, I couldn't go back. I didn't feel
You
comfortable
couldn't
going
go
back to
back.
Jamaica with the boys because
Hold
even
that
the
thought. Hold that thought. We got to take a break.
all
We'll continue
right.
the conversation on the other side.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have as my guest on the collective today, KERRY-ANN Fenton. I don't know whether I should say Minister KERRY-ANN,
Not yet.
but
give me 3-5 years around there.
but KERRY-ANN is the writer and producer of another production. The first was Beanie Buds. Second one is Boss Moves. We'll be right back after this. So we're back on the collective, and KERRY-ANN Fenton is my guest. She is the producer and writer of Boss Moves, a new production which will hit the stage in June, right?
Yes, on June 6th at 3:33 p.m.
All right, we're going to get into that in a minute, but I want you to finish what we were discussing before, the challenge that your son had in trying to complete his senior year and, feeling what was going on with you, your husband, his father, and the divorce.
Yeah. Yeah, and so my ex-husband had Nicholas testify for him as part of the divorce. And I think for Nicholas, yes, it was I mean, Nicholas
It
is
was
still a
difficult.
child.
Yeah.
He was 19 at the time. And I think, as much as as his mom can reinforce that I love you and I don't take you doing that, as a slight against me, there's still that feeling within him because he went into it with, glossy eyes. And then when he was there, I think he realized the true depth of what was actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that year that he had to finish school and we were not here, I think for him, he definitely struggled a bit. And then this past year, while here, it's like a complete 360. And he actually was the one that was now encouraging me and motivating me and saying, "Come on, mom, I want you to smile again." And, and just really be present. And he encouraged me through this new case, to just continue to be positive. And he's like, "Mom, your mom, like, you got this."
Yeah.
And so he
Yeah.
became my cheerleader, and in him becoming my cheerleader, and then the boys smiling more and getting back to their usual self, I have just felt more free to be mom and not be like the worrier and what's next and how am I going to do this and how am I going to care for my kids and how am I going to make sure that school is good and COVID is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then going back to Jamaica, with Jamaica being what it is, like, I was running my dad's business. The economy is taking a hit right now in Jamaica. And so what am I going back to do the business right now for? Right now I'm putting it on a hold. I mean, I up and left everything. I just like ran away. So the business is just literally the doors are closed. It's still a functioning body. And so I plan to keep it that way for a while. But the economy just really needs to rebound and it's going to take some time. If you look at what's happening in India, like in India, think of India. I mean, it's a much more developed nation compared to Jamaica, but yet still, we're certain places in the world are really struggling.
Are really struggling. Yeah.
And Jamaica is one of those. And so this direction of, so Atlanta presented itself with easy access to and from Jamaica as needed, nicer weather, warmer weather.
Yeah. Warmer weather for sure.
Warmer weather for sure. And I always actually wanted to move to Atlanta. My best friend KERRY-ANN lives in Atlanta. And so I used to go back and forth to Atlanta. Also, when my ex-husband, he lived in Albany, Georgia. And
Okay.
Atlanta was our meeting place. And so, Atlanta, I had roots in Atlanta. And so it made sense when the Lord said, go to Atlanta. And I was looking at Charlotte. I wasn't just looking at Atlanta. I had gotten a job with Bank of America, and they're headquartered in Charlotte. And so at the time that I got the job, the position was in Charlotte. And I told them that, well, the boys are in school. And so I couldn't relocate until they were finished with school. But then when I started looking at houses in Charlotte, Charlotte is a booming city right now, and so house prices are crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and you know, the market is what it is. And so I said, well, let me open a search in Atlanta. Michelle, I opened a search in Atlanta on a Tuesday. On a Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, my realtor and my friend said, oh, this house came on the market. Do you want us to go look at it for you? I said, sure. They went, they, FaceTime me through the house, and they said, Kerry, we think this is the one for you. And I was like, really? I said, all right, well, let's put in an offer and see what happens. This is after they told me it's going to be months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before the boys start school, you're lucky. I put in an offer, Michelle, and they accepted it on Sunday. I have not
Wow.
seen this house with my own two eyes yet. Okay?
Kerry-Ann,
God,
that's amazing.
God
That's
said
amazing.
I was going to divinity school in Atlanta, and that was the house for me. The house address, I'm not even going to go into all of it. I'm just going to say to you, on the day of closing, we went for the final walkthrough, and the realtor puts in the alarm code 0227. My boys, both Richard and Ryan, are born on February 27th. We get to the
Wow.
closing, and I said to them, I said, why 0227? They said their son's birthday is February 27th. Goosebumps. I was like, confirmation.
That's
Three,
amazing.
my number is threes. My zip code is 30331. 33. Okay? The number of the street is 28. The house is 28. My birthday is January 28th. The name of the street, Bluestone Drive. If you follow me on social media, I have been all about blue for like
Yes.
the last couple years. Bluestone Drive. And stone in the Bible, if you hear, build my house on solid rock, stone is very significant in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle?
It's destined. It's destined. It's
That's
destined.
And so I'm
So,
just being obedient.
with all of this, how do we get the new production?
So the same way divinity school came about is the same way the production came about. The same way there was a week during Lent that everything just like every day there was something new. Every day. And one morning so I had been thinking, so stress brings on my creative side. So the first production after my dad passed and drowned in my arms, I turned to this creative side that I didn't know that I had, and I produced the first Beanie Bud debut. In this, again, stress with the trial and COVID and what's next and so forth, I had been toying around in my mind and saying, I should do another play. In that week, I woke up one morning, it was like 1:00, and I just grabbed my laptop and I started to type. Before you knew it, 2 hours, it wasn't even 2 hours, I had a script for Boss Moves. And I sent it out immediately. I sent it to my advisors and I said, let's go. And I'm doing it on June 6th. And Reverend Anderson, who's the director, she goes, so did you think about my schedule and my projects and what I have going on in my life? And I was like, you got to take that up with God, because God told me I got a script and we're doing it on June 6th. So any issues you have, you take it to God and then you come back and you talk to me.
So
And we're
give us
doing
a
it.
little bit of a preview. What is this one about?
So Boss Moves is I'm making boss moves right now, if you didn't notice.
I kind of got that idea, but okay.
But it's not just about me and boss moves. It's about women, period. Like we have the first Black vice president, boss moves. We have Karen Du Bois Walton in New Haven running for mayor, boss moves. You look at my cast, you have Director Anderson, first Black woman firefighter in Bridgeport, Connecticut, boss moves. You have Reverend Ursula Hughes, Black AME pastor, boss moves. like we are brilliant. We are wonderful. We are doing things. And so the play is about boss moves. But who is the ultimate boss? It's
Mm.
God. And so everything that's happening in my life with Nicholas, who's also graduating and making boss moves himself, like everything is happening because our ultimate boss has given us that ability to do the things that we're doing. And so boss moves is about what God will do in your life. And my life, all my plays are about my life. And so it's I'm putting my life out there again, but this time it's going to be a comedy. So not not too much tear jerking like the last one, but this one I have an alter ego.
Okay. Because I'm like, okay, a comedy?
Yes, I have
Now,
an alter ego
okay.
because the last 3 years, one thing that I've learned. So the Kerry that you see is always well mannered, always says the right things, a nice thing, and so forth. But in my mind, I'm really like WTF. I curse a lot in my head. I do. I do. And so I will have my alter ego play the Kerry in the head
That's
person.
upstairs
The
in your
Kerry that's
mind.
upstairs that says instead of, so I would get like a court thing in my email, like my ex-husband's lawyers will send something and I'll open it and I'll call my girlfriend. I'll be like, here's another one. And she'd be like, yo, I went to Ross. Like she'll just go off. And everything that she says in my head, I already said it. But I didn't verbalize it. But I really already said it. And so my alter ego, who is Simone Gordon Mullings, she's truly my alter ego in real life. She says it like it is. She cusses a lot out in the open. And she does the things that I really wish I could do in the open. Especially now that I'm going to divinity school. Like I can't be unleashing.
Yeah, it's gotta be looked at and said a very different way now.
Exactly.
Very different.
So it will be a comedy, and we'll laugh and we'll have fun, and yeah, and it's also like my send off and going away from Connecticut. That's the goal. Is that we will relocate successfully to Atlanta, and this for me is kind of like thank you Connecticut for showing us the love that you showed us, and we're going out with a bang.
So, what do you want people to take away from this, KERRY-ANN?
Well, what part, Michelle?
Well, I mean, it's a comedy, so we're supposed to look at it through a different set of eyes.
No, so it's still the message of God, right? And it's how God is going to help you to overcome. But people, as I've done my transition over the years from Kerry the nice person to Kerry the spiritual person, if you follow me, a lot of what I post is God related. And when you transition, you lose friends along the way. People think
True.
that you've somehow changed. You're no longer, they can't say things around you. They can't do things around you anymore. Oh, it's Kerry. And, like a friend of mine was like, oh, we're going out for drinks. Oh, but you can't drink. Well, I can't drink. I drank. The Bible got wine. He turned water to wine. Like, why can't I drink? Things are in moderation.
That is a Black thing, If
like,
Black people, there's two things that Black people know about the Bible: the Beatitudes, Jesus wept,
Jesus bald,
and that he was at the wedding. His mom came to him and said, "Look, there's no more wine. We need it. Bring the vases of water." He turns them into wine. Everybody knows those two passages.
But it was a Black person that told me that I couldn't go out to drink because I can't go to drink. Like, why I can't get a drink? Like,
that's religion. And I guess in thinking about that, right? When you get your master's in divinity, you're going to learn quite a bit about other religions.
Absolutely.
And so, especially when what I have found in conversations with people, when you are a Black Baptist,
mm-hmm.
people are very challenged and upset because of what they're learning. So how will you step out of your frame of knowledge as a Baptist and sort of accept other teachings?
And I really believe that that's who I am today. I was raised Catholic. So raised Catholic, became Baptist after moving to Connecticut. And it was, a soror of mine, Robin Miller Godwin, who invited me to Christian Tabernacle Baptist Church. And I had also visited a Baptist church, other churches, and I had gone to a Catholic church here in Connecticut. And when I went to Christian Tabernacle, I just felt immediately at home, and I just felt at peace. And I ended up getting baptized there, and that was in my 20s. But if you ask me what differentiates a Baptist from AME, like Reverend Orsello, who's on the cast, and she'll also be giving a sermon at the play. She's AME, and I had somebody say, "Oh, I hope you don't become AME." I was like, do they believe in God? Do they believe in Jesus? Is Jesus the way to the cross? Like, so I already am very open. And, the other day at the football field, I had a conversation with a friend who was, talking about, why can't it just be a higher being? And I said, you could have a higher being. I said, yeah. I said, but when I get to heaven and I see you on the other side of the gate and I'm like trying to go and I can't pass because somebody didn't say that Jesus is the way, then don't be mad at me. I was recently seeing a Muslim, and I think so my first and second husband, I'm twice divorced. Neither were Christians. Neither. And I think that played a role in being unequally yoked. And what is your definition of equally yoked? My pastor will say that it's God and Christianity and believing in Jesus Christ, and the acceptance of Jesus being the only way to be saved. Others will say that if you have faith, then that's also equally yoked, because at least you can hold someone accountable to their belief system. So if you have a Muslim, you can go to the Quran and you can say, well, what do they believe? And are they following the Quran? When you have someone that has no faith, how do you check them? How are they convicted? You have no book, you have nothing to go to. And so for me,
and it's a real difference in values.
Absolutely. And actually you can have someone that has values that you think is very mannerable, they do and say the right things, but they just don't believe in God. And that's also not a strength that you should look to, because again, how do you know what their system is? How do you know? It's like it's like you have a company and they have your employee manual. So you can go and you can say, today I'm going to wear a tank top with my belly out. Let me go to the manual and see, is a tank top with the belly out okay? And you can say, no, it's inappropriate. If the company has no manual, then what? People just going to do whatever they want. And then you can't say that's not correct because you have nothing that says it's incorrect. And so that's the thing, that you meet with people that do not have a belief system that has a point of record. And so for me, you can be AME, you can be Muslim, you can be Hindu, like whatever your belief system, I am open to learning. I do not go around and say, oh, Christianity is the way to go. I just, for me, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And for you, you may have someone else, but I'm more than happy to learn and understand what other religions are. And I'm looking forward to it. And so you never know, the next play, the next Beanie Bud play could be something that has to do with varying religions, and how they intersect. And maybe, see, it's all coming. Maybe we sit around a table of different faiths and we sit there and we actually debate it right there as a play.
Sounds interesting. I want producer credit.
Listen, Michelle, are you coming to the play this time?
Yes, I'm coming this time.
Oh, okay, because
there.
your ticket's waiting on you.
I know.
Okay.
And I'll make a donation as well.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Okay.
I
You're
just
welcome.
need to know if you having chicken or fish, because it's a dinner.
What am I having?
Dinner and praise.
Now, I know. Now, what kind of fish?
So we're doing so it's Jamaican cuisine catered by Kingston Grill out of Elmont, New York, which is my mother's restaurant. And it's fish whiting is the type of fish that it's going to be prepared Jamaican style.
I'll have the fish.
All right.
You know, a little point of personal privilege, when I was pregnant, that's all I ate
Really?
the last like 5 months of my pregnancy. I ate all Jamaican food.
And you still want it.
Well,
Usually.
it was somebody who was a very good cook, or either I was
Okay.
just really hungry all the time, you know, balance. But yeah, so that would be wonderful. So tell us where the play is and
So
how to get tickets and when the last day is to get tickets, and are tickets on sale now and all of that.
Michelle, Boss Move sold out in 3 days.
So even if you
Unbelievable.
wanted to go,
Sold out in 3 days. What did I tell you about the number 3? 3 days. We were sold out. Right now, I have like people that have bought their ticket that are still not certain if they're coming. And so what I've said to folks that want to be there is I can only take a list, and as people confirm that they're not coming, then I can slot you in. But
are you
right
going to
now,
stream it?
we're not streaming. So we will record like we recorded the first one. And
Okay.
I recently released the first one on YouTube. I released it on March 28th, and within a month we had over 300 views. And so the goal is to also record this one. Hopefully it won't take me 2 years, because after the first one, as successful as it was, I couldn't watch it. You know, it was very emotional. I mean, it was about my dad. It was about the events of, you know, how he drowned. And I really just couldn't watch it. And so I put it down. And it wasn't until Christmas, when I was with my girlfriend Simone and her family, and they hadn't seen it, that I said, all right, let's see. And I even walked away during certain scenes.
Yeah.
But for this one, because I think it's going to be fun and lively. And I'm very critical of myself. So if I can get past seeing myself on screen, because people are like, oh my gosh, it was so good. And I'm like, really?
Now, do you have a role?
I'm in this one again.
Okay.
Yes. It's, you know,
So tell us a little bit about the characters.
So you have Beanie Bud, which is me, and my boys are in the play as well. So it's a family affair. When Beanie Bud takes the stage, it's a family affair. And this time, when I told, I was driving the boys to school, Richard and Ryan, who are now 13 and 11. I was driving them to school, and I said, guys, a new play is coming. And they were like, ooh, we are not going to be in just 2 scenes. We better be in all the scenes this time. And then Ryan, the 11-year-old, he gave me a scene. He right there on the spot said, this is the scene that I want. And I said, you got it. So his
Wow.
scene is in there. And so they are in multiple scenes because that's how they wanted it. You have Simone Gordon Mullings, who plays my alter ego. She's Jamaican as well. And, you know, in the first play, I had Steve McMorris, who is Jamaican, and he played the police officer. And because of my heritage, it's important to make sure that we tie in that Jamaican roots. We have Reverend Ursula Hughes, who will play herself and do a sermonette. We have Miles Lee, who is a theater person. And so the first one we had dance. Dance is an important part of my life. This time we'll also have vocalists. And so we have Miles Lee, who will be doing a medley. We have Regina Mullings, one of my sorority sisters, who will also be gracing us with her vocals. And then we have coming, absolutely. And then we have coming from Chicago, we have Flo Fire, and her and her daughter will be doing a performance as well as part of the play. And then we have Tavon Dudley. And if you saw the first play, he is an amazing dancer. And he will also be joining. So a lot of who's in the play are the cast.
A lot of repeat performers, but in different roles.
In different roles, yes. And so, you know, the first one worked, and I like to stay true and committed to those that are committed to me. The play, again, all proceeds benefit charity, because my father was a charitable person. And so the charity of choice this year is FEED, which stands for Fire Edifying, Empowering, Developing. And it's geared to mental mental health in the Black and Caribbean communities. And we do address mental health through feed experiences, where we'll focus on a topic of choice, and the attendees can speak and express themselves and have healing conversations. And I was recently named the board president for Feed. I think the announcement came out today. And so in addition to everything else, I have now
say, what hat is this?
Well, you know, I've always been on boards and I've been president of boards, and so this fell right up my alley. And it also, you know, in this past 3 years, I went through a very low point in my life, and I think that makes me uniquely capable as well to talk about how do you go through those low points. Because when your father, the closest, I shouldn't say closest, my mom always says, I never get no credit. So for the record, Mom, you are the wind beneath my wings.
Have her watch this so she'll know.
She is, let me tell you, Mom, you think I'm dynamic. My mother, no college degree, has been entrepreneur. She has had magazines. She's now a successful restaurant owner. Like my mom, she was an accountant for a big company with no degree. Like, listen, you talk about boss moves. My mom is a boss mover and shaker in her own right. And so she's like, oh, you give your dad all the praise. Well, my dad ain't here no more. So that's why I give him a little bit of praise. I said, but Mom, everybody knows it takes a mother to pull it all together, you know, and I definitely would not be here where I am and be as successful as I am if it were not for my mom. And in my bio, go ahead.
The production takes place at Brigamos?
No, so we had to change the location. Brigamos came back after we had solidified and said that even with the state opening up, that they weren't comfortable with an in-person event. And so we moved to Whitneyville Cultural Commons, which actually doubled the amount of audience members that we can actually have. So,
wow.
And even with the doubling, we sold out in 3 days. So it will be at Whitneyville in Hampden. It will be dinner and praise. June 6th, 3:33 p.m. It's Alter Ego weekend. So even if you can't come, know that weekend, I want you all to unleash. No, let's go with liberate your alter ego. So if that alter ego is fishnet stockings, you put them on. If the alter ego is some sneakers, put them on. Like whoever that alter ego is, let us liberate alter egos on that weekend. So from June 4th to June 6th, be who you don't think you could be every day.
I love that. Be who you don't think you can be, but you really are.
But you really are. And so if you hear a few words come out, I will not have my Candler sweater on.
KERRY-ANN, thank you so much. This was great. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to Boss Moves.
Thank you.
And
can I just
success.
say, please donate. Right now, we are about $2,300 in donations. The goal is to get to 10,000. And so even if you can't be there, the smallest thing, please donate towards the cause. Mental health issues in our community, we just have to combat it in whatever ways we can. So please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, KERRY-ANN Fenton, producer, writer, actor in Boss Moves, June 4th through 6th, 3:33.
Don't forget those 3 3s, girl.
Yeah, they're important in your life. At the Whitneyville Commons in Hampden, Connecticut, on Whitney Avenue. Again, thank you so much, KERRY-ANN. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I wish you the best in your new life in Atlanta. And when I come through, I'll visit.
You better. I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, I know you will. What do you mean you came to Atlanta and I didn't see you?
Girl.
So I know.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thanks to the boys.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you. I wish you nothing but the best. This has been The Collective right here on WSME Enlightenment Radio. Thank you.